outside do not know. And when people are putting pressure to get this money released, they come to the media and they go, they create furor, only 20% of budget spent, only 15%. And then you begin to ask, how do we measure effectiveness of the budget? Is it by the money spent or by value created? That's where the problem is.
And some people also say that it's also because of how the budget is, from the fact that we have a yearly budget. So at the end of the day, projects are put on hold. I mean, the fact that, yes, this budget year will soon be over, and the Ministry of Finance is saying we have not seen the value created so far, we cannot release the... But people say if we had like a 2-year or 3-year budget, they wouldn't have that problem and they could just release the money as needed.
I agree with you. I hold that position, that this yearly budget is not the best. We should have a 3-year rolling budget. They just roll from one to the other, so we don't have to stop. Because even in that process of being trying to preserve money, to save money, to make sure it's not wasted, you also affect projects. Some projects have to wait 3 months without money. Sometimes the contractors will demobilize, and it's costly to get them back on site. So I think that is probably what is going to help us. Let's have a rolling budget, as you have in other parts of the world. In developed world, the budget rolls. They make a 3-year budget, it's approved, then it rolls on. This fanfare and furor about nobody knows when the budgets are approved in the United States, except when they have issues on debt and debt ceiling and all that, we begin to hear. Otherwise, it just rolls on, and I believe that that will help us.
Why do you think that there is a reluctance to take on that kind of budgeting system? Because many people have said exactly the same thing. Do you think that there could also be a middle ground for that?
Well, actually, I haven't engaged the framers of the budget on this, so I will not really know what their issues are. But I can only hazard some guesses. One is because of the structure of the federation. 2, because we have a federation where all the money is put in one basket and then is shared. Elsewhere, the people hold their money and contribute to the budget. So the predictability of income is better. That is so on. And also believe that the national income is subject to so much variation. Before we start to write our budget, we're looking at what is the exchange rate, what is the cost of price of crude on the market, and all that. So somebody may say you can't predict what will be in 3 years. So if you make a budget based on those assumptions, maybe the variations and deviations may be much more. I'm just hazarding those guesses, but I don't think they are strong enough to defeat the argument that it's better to have a 3-year rolling plan. We hear medium-term expenditure framework, which actually is supposed to be in along that format. And maybe this is the precursor, but eventually that's where we should go, so that we don't do this stop and go. No project, no real project, especially if there were capital projects that can be finished in 1 year. Very few, if any. And so if you make this short aliquots, and also it's affecting project completion. A project that is supposed to be 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, some are 10 years.
When I asked you for middle ground, the thing that came to my mind was, if we have a problem with these variations that you've talked about, is it not possible for us to say the capital, we could have 2 separate budgets, one for capital expenditure and the other one for recurrent? Because it always happens that the recurrent expenditure is always fully implemented year in, year out. But the capital side, which is where people feel the impact more, is usually never implemented, or implemented in a very poor manner. Do you think that would work as well?
I don't see why it cannot work. Everybody can design what works for them. There is no law in heaven on earth that insists budgets must be done in a particular way. Every country can introduce some bit of uniqueness in the way it does. And if we can have certain aspect of the budget like fixed, because they are predictable, and then we do with the variable part of it, I think it can be done. But what is important is the way we are running our budgets is not efficient. It's not producing the right results at the right time. That is without question. What do we do to make it better? I think the framers of the Constitution, and also because some people are also going to raise constitutional issues in this budget thing, because there's also a constitutional pathway.
I actually wanted us to quickly delve on ways by which we can actually help upcoming young Nigerians start off. For people like yourself, definitely mistakes before you finally got it right. But for so many countries, they have people like yourself who have been able to impart such knowledge on the younger ones to the extent that they will make lesser mistakes, if at all no mistakes at the start off. Now it brings us to business analysis and training for young persons. Do you, or do we have a way where we can actually have young entrepreneurs to be, where we can actually impart such business potential in them?
Well, exactly. That's a great motivation for me, really, especially since I retired from being the CEO of NIMEX about 2 years ago. I've devoted a lot of my time to mentoring, to supporting young people in the area of empowerment, business development, and governance. Because I have found out that if we didn't do that, then the chances of escalating growth and breaking what we see as a high level of unemployment will be a problem.
So what's the common concern of these young people when you get to meet them?
Basically, first is that they need to have the right perspective, the right attitude. That's where I think it all starts. They also need to believe in this country, because there's so much that happens that, I mean, I was talking to one of my young guys I was mentoring. He suddenly left the country to go to Qatar. He thought there was greater. Now he's sending me information that the place is not as rosy as he thought. And he's saying, is there something I can find him do locally? But at the time I was advising him, look at the opportunities in the country. So we need to get them to believe in the country. We need to show them what we have been able to do in this nation, as I was just pointing to you now, the audacious investments that are going on. If people can do these big ticket investments in this country, even when there is a global bad weather, then it means things are possible here. That is one. I mean, if you take the Institute of International Institute of Business Analysis, for example, we are trying to mentor. We get them together to try and understand the basic principles. You know, everything that operates in the world operates on principles. Many people say business is difficult. Yes, it is. But the part is that people stumble into business without following the principles. The moment you follow the principles, your chances of failing are minimized. But if you blunder into it, or you think you can come with it from your own idiosyncratic way of thinking, you might miss it. We ask for innovation, we ask for creativity, and young people have them, but they have to be properly channeled and seasoned. Because if there's some innovation or creativity and you build it on what has happened in the past, it then seasons you. It shows it's able to manage your ability to go overboard. You know, young people can go overboard once in a while because of enthusiasm and zealousness, and then they get their fingers burnt and then they retreat. You know, so but when people like us who have had some exposure, who have seen it, different seasons, we're able to guide them. You know, and when we're speaking at the conference coming up in the next tomorrow and the day after, 24th and 25th, we're going to be looking at the capabilities for strategic change, because that is what is required. If this country wants to escalate performance, if we want to get to 20th position as a country against the rest of the world in terms of productivity, then there must be capacity, and young people are in the best position to inculcate that much more than the older generation. That's the kind of thing we're pushing.
All right, sounds interesting, but we'll have to end it there. Thank you very much indeed for coming on. Samuel Habawan is the president, Nigerian American Chamber of Commerce, and the immediate past chairman of the NASG. We'll return after this break. Please join us again.
Anambra